How did your dog prove your parents wrong? When I was 14, I had been begging my parents for a service dog for months. My anxiety had gotten so bad that I couldn't even walk into school without hyperventilating in the parking lot. My therapist told them it would help, but they kept saying no. Dad always said dogs were too much work and too expensive. Mom claimed I was just exaggerating my anxiety to skip school. Dad would joke around dinner, "If you're too anxious to go to school, how are you gonna walk a dog every day?" So when my cousin Jake called and said his friend couldn't keep their Labrador mix Scout anymore, I said yes without asking. Scout was already trained for emotional support stuff. I met Jake at the park that Tuesday and walked home with this golden brown dog who immediately started following me around like we'd known each other forever. My parents lost their minds when I walked through the door. Mom started yelling about responsibility and vet bills. Dad was pacing around the kitchen saying I couldn't just bring home random animals. They were so mad they could barely speak to me during dinner. But then Dad got this idea. He said I could keep Scout for exactly 1 week to prove I couldn't handle it. He even pulled out this little blue notebook and started writing down everything I did wrong. Day 1, he wrote that I forgot to fill the water bowl before school. Day 2, he noted that Scout tracked mud on the carpet, but something weird started happening. The first night Scout was there, I didn't have my usual 3 a.m. panic attack where I'd end up crying under my blanket. Instead, when I started feeling that familiar tightness in my chest around midnight, Scout jumped onto my bed and put his head right on my chest. His weight was warm and heavy, and somehow my breathing just slowed down. The next morning at breakfast, Mom asked why I looked so rested. I told her about Scout helping me sleep, but she just rolled her eyes and said it was probably just the excitement of getting what I wanted. Day 3 was when things got real. I had this math tutoring session with Mr. Peterson that usually left me in tears because I'd get so anxious about making mistakes. This time, I brought Scout with me. Mr. Peterson seemed annoyed at first, but then something crazy happened. Every time I started bouncing my leg or my breathing got fast, Scout would gently paw at my arm. It was like he could feel my anxiety building before I even realized it was happening. I actually solved 3 problems that day without crying. Mr. Peterson looked shocked. He told my parents later that he'd never seen me so calm and focused. Day 4 was the real test, though. I had to meet with Mrs. Collins, the school counselor, because I'd been missing so many classes. Usually these meetings made me want to throw up, but Scout came with me. He sat right next to my chair, and when Mrs. Collins started asking about my attendance, I felt that familiar panic rising. But Scout immediately put his paw on my leg and looked right at me. Mrs. Collins noticed everything. She watched how Scout would nudge me when I started fidgeting, how he'd rest his head against my leg when my voice got shaky. After 20 minutes, she asked to speak with my parents. That evening, she called them and said something that changed everything. "Your daughter is a completely different person with this dog. This isn't some teenage phase or a crutch she's using to avoid responsibility. This animal is giving her a bridge to function normally." Dad still tried to stick to his 1-week rule. He kept writing in his stupid notebook, but I noticed the complaints were getting smaller. Left Scout's toy in hallway, or dog hair on couch. Nothing about me being irresponsible anymore. Then on day 6, something happened that nobody expected. Dad had been having trouble sleeping because of work stress, and that night, he had his own panic attack. I heard him breathing hard in his bedroom around 2 a.m. I was about to check on him when I saw Scout get up from my bed and walk straight to their room. I followed quietly and saw Scout climb right onto their bed and lay his head on Dad's chest, just like he did with me. Dad didn't push him away. He just put his hand on Scout's head, and his breathing started slowing down. I watched for maybe 10 minutes before going back to my room. Dad never talked about what happened that night, but the next morning, I found Scout's food bowls moved from the kitchen to the living room cabinet. His toys were arranged in a neat little basket next to Dad's chair. When I asked about it, Dad just shrugged and said, "I guess he's staying." The notebook disappeared after that. Dad started taking Scout for walks every evening after work.